Hello guys, welcome to the Russian Football News Predictions League Week 12. We have an international break coming up, so you've got a bit of a pause after this. But of course what we really like is the Predictions League itself, isn't it, right? Russian teams in action in midweek. We've already had Atletico Madrid in Moscow that beat Lokomotiv 2-0. Lokomotiv were never really in the game, if we're being brutally honest. But I don't think anybody really expected them to get anything from home or away games against Juventus or Atletico Madrid. But they've already done the business, you could argue, by beating Leverkusen away. That is arguably the most critical result because that, I'm not going to say guarantees it, but based on form, you'd be very surprised if Leverkusen got any points from any of their games against Juventus or Atletico Madrid either. So as long as it's in Lokomotiv's hands to at least make Europa League by getting third spot in the Champions League group. Zenit were very good, very comfortable winners against Benfica last night, 3-1 winners, so that was encouraging too. I'm recording this before the Europa League games on Thursday for Krasnodar and CSKA Moscow, both against Spanish sides. CSKA Moscow against Espanyol, Krasnodar against Getafe. But anyhow, we'll come to that another time. On to this weekend's fixtures. Now, headlines, of course, we've got two managerial changes. First up, we have Ufa against Akhmat Grozny. That's the first game we have, and in this game we have a new manager. Rashid Rakhimov resigned after Akhmat Grozny's game last weekend. Akhmat Grozny were playing, away to Sochi, who hadn't won at home all season, and they lost. So he's gone. In has come Igor Shalimov. Spartak Moscow, Oleg Kononov has resigned. He was a dead man walking all along. The only question, realistically, was when he was going to go. Now, he has gone because they lost at home to Orenburg, an utterly appalling result for a club of Spartak's stature and resources. And it looks very much like Domenico Tedesco, former Schalke manager, is coming in. I'm just trying to check actually if it's been confirmed today. I haven't seen it confirmed, but it looks very likely. Thomas Zorn, German sporting director at Spartak Moscow, whatever his official job title is, that's effectively what the role he plays. That has given a lot of grounds to those rumours. Anyhow, let's crack on, shall we? Ufa at home to Akhmat Grozny. On paper, there's only one team in this in form. Ufa have won 3 of the last 4 home games. They've kept 3 clean sheets in a row. They're up to 6th place in the table. Akhmat Grozny, meanwhile, are down in the relegation zone. They haven't won in the last 8 away games in the league, and they've only scored once in that run. They haven't won for 7 league games as well. They lost 2-0 away to Sochi last weekend, like I say. Ufa, only 0-0 draw away to Rubin Kazan last weekend, but away from home, they are very poor. They haven't won in something like 18 months in the league away from home, but it's at home where they are very strong. So that's what I think will happen here. I don't think they're going to score many because they still don't have a really good target man who will put away goals like Sylvester Igbun did. So I'm going to go for 1-0 to Ufa. Moving on, Orenburg, fresh from effectively firing Kononov or helping him on his way, 2-1 winners away to Spartak Moscow last weekend. That has lifted them out of the relegation zone. Orenburg, from seemingly nowhere, from the beginning of the season, when don't forget they lost Alexander Sutomin, they lost a lot of senior players. At one point, they only had 17 senior players, and not all of them were really in contention for first-team football last season. They've bolstered the squad. They've now won 3 of the last 4 games, including, of course, that Spartak Moscow away win. They still have Georgia Despotovic, one of the best target men, in my opinion, outside the top 5. Dynamo Moscow, they struggle for goals. Why they are struggling for goals, I cannot put my finger on it. They've got all the ingredients there. They spent something like 30 million euros over the summer, but they just can't score goals. They are the second lowest goal scorers in the league. No, sorry, third lowest goal scorers in the league. They've only got 8 goals in 11 games. Their defence is not too bad. They only conceded 12 in 11 games, which is, like I say, it's all right. I just think Orenburg are going to win this one. Now, a lot of Orenburg games are both teams having scored, so I am going to go for that as well. I'm going to go for 2-1. Dynamo Moscow, well, to back them to score away from home when they average less than a goal a game over the whole season is slightly risky, but they do have a lot of good players there. It's only a matter of time before they do start clicking, at least to some degree. But I'm going to go for 2-1 to Orenburg. All right, Rubin Kazan at home to Tambov. Rubin Kazan, as I predicted, I'm sorry, I'm going to be a little bit cocky. I had a good week of predictions. It was my best week. I got 10 points. And I did say that Rubin Kazan, not a revolutionary idea, we're going to struggle to score because they are the low scorers in the division. 0-0 at home to Ufa. I think actually they're going to have that again. They're here at home to Tambov. Tambov last weekend were routine losers to Krylia Sovietov. Krylia have far more dangerous attackers, you'd argue. Tambov are bottom of the table. So a point suits Tambov. A point actually suits Rubin Kazan as well, I'd say. Even though they're in the relegation playoff zone, they've got to make sure that they are stopping the rot. They had lost 4 in a row before that, sorry. A point would probably, most likely, help them at least stay out of the relegation automatic relegation places, may even help get them out of the relegation places altogether. We'll see. And neither of them have reliable goal scorers, so I'm going to go for 0-0. Moving on, Sochi at home to Krylia Sovietov. Sochi, I'm really pleased for them, actually. They won their first home game. Now, they'd only played 3 at home before that because, of course, the way the fixtures are weighted is that during the winter months, so in November, Sochi will have a lot of home games because a lot of other clubs, just the temperatures are too cold to play there, which is actually quite logical, which has in turn meant that at the beginning of the season, which is quite hard for Sochi when they're starting in the top flight, they've had a lot of away games. So they finally won at home. They were at home to Akhmat Grozny, and it was 2-0. Really lovely goal by Christian Nabar. Beautiful little chip. You should have seen it on social media if you haven't already. Check it out. And the results, of course, prompted Rashid Rakhimov into resigning, and in has come Igor Shalimov. Shalimov was at Krasnodar a few years ago, most recently at Khimki, where he was fired, and he hasn't had a job for a few months, so it's not exactly a great appointment. Anyhow, Sochi, they are starting to score. They have won 3 of the last 4 games. They're actually up into 10th. They are 3 points clear of the automatic relegation places. And I think they're going to start scoring goals. They've got a good side together there, and Christian Yabor pulling the strings. Really, really important. Krylia Sovietov, they did win last weekend. They beat, like I mentioned, Tambov 2-0 at home. But they are not at home this time. They're away from home. So it's a very different story. On their away form, they have conceded in all of their last 11 away games, and they've conceded 22 goals in that period. So that kind of tells you the story. Yes, there's always a threat from Alexander Sobolev, admittedly, but I'm not convinced they're going to win this one. I actually think Sochi are very good, are starting to look better, actually, at closing games out. So I'm going to go for 1-0 to Sochi. Moving on, Ural at home to Zenit St. Petersburg. Well, surprise, surprise, Ural with their dreadful defence conceded 3 goals. They have now conceded 4 more goals than the next worst defence, which is Orenburg. 23 goals conceded in 11 games. Yes, it was against CSKA Moscow, who are now top of the table. But it's just so concerning. It could have been 4 because Fyodor Chalov missed the penalty. It could have been more than that because there were more chances for CSKA Moscow. Slightly more concerningly that Ural failed to score because they have scored 17 goals this season, which is no mean feat. Outside the top 5, they are the top goal scorers in the division. It's not going to get any better though because it's Zenit St. Petersburg, like I say, coming to town. Yes, Zenit did lose at the weekend 1-0 away to Lokomotiv Moscow, but Lokomotiv Moscow are a lot better in all departments than Ural Yekaterinburg. So I am going to go for a Zenit win. That's not much of a surprise, and I think a lot of you could probably go along with that. I do think Ural they do usually have that potential to score. They have good wingers. They have some reasonable pace up front. So I'm going to go for them to score, but I'm going to go for Zenit to score more than them. I'm going to go for 2-1. May well be more than that, but anyhow, we'll see. Right, moving on. Lokomotiv Moscow at home to Arsenal Tula. Lokomotiv on a high after beating Zenit 1-0 at home. Arsenal Tula last weekend, they were beaten by Krasnodar. You can't really tell much from that because it's what you'd expect. It was 2-0, so not too bad, I guess. But they're facing Lokomotiv Moscow, they will want to bounce back from losing to Atletico Madrid at home in the Champions League on Tuesday. I think they will. I think they'll score. And they're looking at a very good side. Kuchowiak is suspended, which is a miss. But other than that, I think they'll be fine. I think they'll win 2-0. Right, moving on to CSKA Moscow at home to Rostov. Like I say, CSKA are top of the table. Really good 3-0 win away to Ural Yekaterinburg. They do have Europa League on Thursday tonight as I'm recording it. You may well know the result by the time you watch this. Playing Rostov, this is the game of the weekend for me. Rostov themselves, well, they beat Dynamo Moscow 3-0, and for them to keep a clean sheet this season is actually very rare. So you'd have to say it's going to be a challenge. But I think CSKA Moscow have got the squad. Their defence is now, most of the injuries are now wheedling out. I think they're going to win, but I think there could be goals on both sides. So I'm going to go for 2-1 to CSKA. Finally, we have Krasnodar at home to Spartak Moscow. Now, a few weeks ago, you would have called this the game of the weekend. Spartak Moscow on really good form, and they were in the top 5 or near about. But they lost 2-1 at home to Orenburg. That's a pathetic result for a club of their size and resources and playing squad. And like I say, it's unconfirmed at the moment. They may have got Domenico Tedesco by the time you watch this or by the weekend. But either way, even if he comes in, he won't have had any time with the club. Krasnodar, though, they are on good form. Again, I won't know the Europa League result, but they beat Arsenal Tula 2-0, and they are in that chasing pack, 2 points behind CSKA Moscow. I'm going to go for Krasnodar win. I don't think they're going to have too much trouble against a crisis-ridden Spartak Moscow, so I'm going to go for 2-0 to Krasnodar. Okay, that's your lot. Good luck, guys. Get your predictions in as usual, and I will see you in 2 weeks' time after the international break. Bye-bye for now.